Right, it's Monday. Everyone's worrying about the future. The future will happen. There's no point in worrying about it. It'll only make you ill. I suggest you get on with today. I'll tell you a little story. I'll give you a little bit of advice from Go-Go Bordello, one of my favourite bands. The chorus from a song called Ultimate. There was never any good old days. They are today, they are tomorrow. It's a stupid thing we say, cursing tomorrow with sorrow. Anyway, that's my philosophy. Don't worry about the future, and the past is the past and done. Live in the present. I always live in the present. I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about when I lived in the woods. You may not know, but I used to live in the woods for many, many years. I really loved it, and I wouldn't have stopped doing it if I hadn't become very ill, too ill to actually survive like that. But one day, some friends came to visit, and we brought food with them for a picnic and a blanket and all that. And I'd expected that, so I'd been out and I'd been looking at where to have the picnic. Well, they were really a bit shocked about the place I decided on the picnic. We were about less than a metre away from an ant's nest. You know those huge ant's nests you get in the woods? Well, it was teeming with ants. There were ants crawling all over it, and they were a little bit dubious. I said, look, don't worry. I've watched the ants. I know what they do. And the ants, they're really quite regimented. I think that's the right word for it. They go in paths. They head looking for their food, and they're foraging and whatever they do, cleaning up the forest floor. But they don't go everywhere. You might think they do. You might think, oh, wherever I go in the woods, there's wood ants everywhere. But that's probably because you've stepped on their path. So we put down our picnic blanket, and yeah, one or two ants did actually come on it, but mostly they just went elsewhere because that's what they do, you know. So if you don't worry about everything, but just be with it, you'll be surprised what you can get up to. Anyway, that's one thing. Another thing about ants' nests is they're really, really funny. They're like a natural litmus paper. If you take a bluebell, the actual flower of a bluebell, and you put it on an ant's nest, within seconds they've stung it, and it turns pink. Very pretty. But anyway, that's all by the by. I've got a poem that I wrote called A Different Drumbeat. I wrote it this morning, actually. And I'm going to read it to you, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, you can just switch off. It's no problem for me. Your choice. Okay, so here we go. There once was a man who lived in the woods. He lived very simply, for he knew that he could. Life was not easy to live in that manner, but being astute, he was always a planner, fetching wood for the fire and water and food, clothes on his back and feet mostly shoed. The wonders of nature never ceased to amaze, soft touch of the rain and the sun's warming rays. On winter mornings his clothes often frozen, however it pleased him, this life that he'd chosen. This wonderful life in amongst all the trees, at night time a candle to help him to see. And the only buzzing was the sound of the bees, or the hoot of an owl, or the song of the breeze. He loved his life freely and as rich. He lived his life freely and as rich as a king. He didn't have money, but what joy can that bring? His freedom was something that many have lost, for many have needs that are heavily embossed. They pay for with their freedom, and that's quite a cost. Their I's are all dotted, their T's are all crossed. He lived in a way that most have forgotten, in the civilised world with foundations quite rotten. So if you go to the woods, try not to rush. Listen to nature, it's really quite lush. And perhaps stop to think, take a leaf from this book. If you can't see the future, don't bother to look. What will be is not certain and not something to worry. So live in the present. There is no need to hurry. One love.